my focus has been very much about investing with a gender lens, which is to take into account how are we positively affecting the lives of women and girls, and how are we getting access to capital to women in the picture of anything we might be investing in. And I've been in technology for 30 years. I started my career at IBM and worked for 2 IBM-funded tech startups. But I'm also a real believer that the high touch and the human side is absolutely essential. And we've got to be thinking about what are the cultural and social barriers that might be inhibiting people's access, the regulatory barriers. So can a woman get access to a bank account without, or access to an account without her husband co-signing? Can a girl who is 15, who's actually been being treated like a woman, she's out of school, she's working, she may be married, she may already have kids, get access to an account? Not in a lot of countries where you have to be 18. If they're still living at home, so I do a lot of work around adolescent girls, and the parents don't necessarily want them to have access to a mobile device because they're worried about the risky behaviors they might engage in, then are they being kept from having access to really vital products and services? And the thing is, they go around the parents' back. I mean, they will go and do anything to get a mobile phone, a SIM card that they will share with their friends. They'll engage in risky behaviors in order to get mobile minutes and to be able to engage in mobile cash. And so there are a lot of sort of hidden things that we need to be thinking about in terms of access, literacy, financial literacy, basic literacy, and numeracy as we have all these products coming out. How do people make choices? How do they know what's real versus what could be fraudulent? How do they choose between products? And how do they understand how? So they're, especially with girls, tech enablement's not really an issue because if they get access to tech, they're learning it very quickly. In some cases, it's the older women that are sort of left behind a bit. But even just fundamental access to mobile devices. I see Sevi is sitting here from Cherie Blair Foundation, who's done a lot of work with GSMA to really look at the disparity between how women and girls have access to technology or don't, and mobile devices. So on the challenging side, if we think about what are we aiming for, the well-being of women and girls, you could think about health. We've been talking about health, education, economic opportunity, security and safety, and human rights as kind of core determinants of what makes for the well-being of women and girls. Then we need to be really conscious about, as we get very excited about all these new technologies and disruptive solutions, what are the inhibitors and the opportunities that come from really understanding women and girls' needs and barriers. And I think in some cases, I love talking to these guys because I think I'm hearing a lot about kind of, even though they're not using the word, human-centered design, design thinking. How are their target customers involved in co-designing the products? And how are these innovations really adapting to what the real market need is and what those barriers are? But I think it's impinged on all of us to really go at any new product or technology. And I'm an active angel, venture investor, community investor. I'm invested in a number of funds that are sitting in the audience, to really be able to use that lens, that gender lens, and say, whether we're looking across the whole value chain, at suppliers and distributors, at customers, at the business owners themselves, what are their constraints, what are their opportunities, and how can we get actually outperformance by paying, from a social and a financial perspective, by paying really direct attention to how are those products and services designed and delivered? How are they marketed and sold? Where do you have, if you have a product that is for women smallholder farmers, and you're really out there, like Farm Drive is a really cool company in Kenya that is using predictive analytics and people's getting people onto mobile to save their expenses and their revenue and their yields, and then giving them access to credit for smallholder farmers. Really thinking about who is selling to them. Are they really aware of the dynamics that those women farmers really need to be addressing? And in some cases, I think we've heard some great examples that it's not just about pure financial services, it's a financial services in context of access to energy, access to education, access to healthcare services, which are really core to women's and girls' advancement. And so how are we building in the right models and working with the right partnerships that is including working with, for example, NGOs that often understand the dynamics, the social dynamics, as we are designing these and delivering these products and services. So I could give you lots of examples from spring. I hope I'll get a chance to do that. But what I'm excited about is seeing innovations coming from combining some old and some new. Some very high tech, new things that we can do, because in what you're describing, what we couldn't do before, because we didn't have digitization of all invoices, but also with really old models around collaboration, workers and savings collectives, for example. So if you think about the thing everybody thinks about with financial inclusion is women's savings collectives in emerging markets. So who is taking that model and saying, what is the 21st century version of that, using as much tech as makes sense? And we have some great examples on Spring, which are really bringing that to life, where people are really understanding there are particular dynamics that both increase opportunity for a company, but also decrease risk for a company by paying attention to some of these older dynamics.